Hello, this is the analysis of Nathaniel. For this video, no, I'm just another comparison video, right, of Infamous 1, 2, 3. No, yeah, or 1, 2, and Second Son. Second Son being the third game, right? 24, so 2009 to 2014, and you had another game in between, or two games really. You had a Festival of Blood and what's the other Infamous? First Light, but those were DLCs, you know. So let me know what you guys think. Comparison. Last one I did was the Arkham video. I was comparing the Arkham games. So yeah, and again, like, subscribe, share the video. Please share the video all over, please, all over. Like, you know, yeah. So Infamous, the Infamous series again. They're a super powered based series, right? So, subscribe watermark down here, please. Press that. They're superpowers. You have powers of electricity early on, right? Electricity, lightning, you know, on the first two games here. And like you basically drain electricity. You can hover with electricity. You can shoot grenades, fire rockets. There's all sorts of different abilities, different ways that you use the abilities. And Infamous Second Son, although Second Son, can spoilers, as kind of a spin-off too, you know, or a futuristic. It's kind of like 7 years after the main Infamous series ends. So with that too, like you have different powers. You have smoke powers. You have concrete, the ability to have concrete, light, and video-based powers. You know. So yeah. So the powers, they all change, and there's different type of powers. No, I can mostly compare the games. Like this is a comparison mostly. So quickly, Infamous 1 had the best. There's something like in Infamous where it's the karma system. The karma system is the overall like moral choices, right? So throughout the story, like of all the games, you're gonna be having different types of moral choices. Where do you want to be more? I can choose to be more good or evil. Or does it make sense to be doing doing this or that? Is it gonna benefit you more? Like there's one choice in the game, right? You can either let your close friend die, right? Or I could let a bunch of doctors die, you know. So like you have to kind of decide, you know. A villain puts you like in this weird scenario, you know, and then the good one is to go after the doctors because the world is in ruins and you need doctors in the world, right? So you have to decide, and yeah, and about the karma system, affects your powers. Like when you're good, you have blue lightning. When you're bad, you have red lightning slash orange lightning. So Infamous 1 had the best because it really took the time to introduce the concept, you know, of being good versus evil, you know, good versus evil, and morally great choices, you know, hard choices. Infamous 2 did it too, but not as good as the first one. The first one really did a great job introducing it. It did a great job. Infamous Second Son, it's not as much in this almost. It is like it's barely even there anymore because I could tell the Sucker Punch, the company that made it, that went a different route. Smallest map, Infamous. Oh no, the longest game I would say is probably Infamous 1 is the longest one. The longest 2 is the second longest, and this is the shortest of all the games. This is a very short, quick game. I can finish it in 5 hours. But the first Infamous took like 15 to 20 hours. A second one, the same thing, like 15 to 18 hours. So, or maybe less than that, 10 to 15 hours. A part of the reason why now I feel, over time you got more abilities, right? Like as the games went on, Infamous Second Son, you have more aerial abilities. Aerial, so you're more agile. You can run up buildings with upgrades. I can almost fly basically. Where in the first Infamous, you didn't have those aerial powers. You had to climb buildings. You have to climb. You know, and that's what it is. You know, Infamous 2, like you had a little more. You had the napalm ability, the Firebird, where you could fly a little bit. You had the grappling hook, zip line with the electric grappling hook. You could grapple onto the top buildings, you know. Second Son now, the easiest of the game again, Second Son. So you're gonna kind of see like a trend, like as the games went on, they got easier. Cause Second Son, you had more again agility, so you could teleport. You could teleport. You could, so you're naturally gonna be less likely to get shot or hit, you know. Whereas the Infamous One, you're basically like a human without those teleportation powers. So you're gonna get shot a lot. You get shot up a lot, and especially like if you're playing a hard difficulty, you're gonna die a lot. Even from a Second Son, I hardly died. Hardly. No, the only times I died were early on, when I didn't have enough upgrades, you know. Oh, sorry. Infamous 2, you know, I gonna die a lot. So really, actually, Infamous 1 and 2, they're probably equal difficulty across both of them, you know. The Second Son was easy in comparison. Easy. Very easy. Now, graphics of Second Son is gonna have the best graphics out of all the games. Because it's the newest game. It's the newest out of all of them, right? Now, Second Son is one of the best looking. It's an early PS4 game, but it's one of the best looking PS4 games. Even now with PS4 games still coming out, right? Even though I know it's considered last gen, officially PS4, because of PS5 now. But yeah, the best looking game. But I don't get me wrong, Infamous 2, which came out 3 years earlier, was very good graphics as well. Really good graphics. And for the time, late PS3, right? So, or a mid to late PS3, like really good graphics. Then Infamous 1 had more like older type graphics, you know. Due to the time, 2009, right? So still mid PS3, early to mid PS3. Stories, it's really, I know they all are great, fun stories. For Second Son had a rush story. The story went by very fast, right? So certain characters couldn't have gotten, I didn't get established as well. So like it ended up, you're gonna end up wanting more in the story. Infamous 1 had the best, by far the best like story, and you know, overall, like I use of the characters, everybody like in the story, and the scenarios that it would put you in. Like really great. Like it did really good with that. Infamous 2, a similar but not as good as the first one, because it kind of introduces too many concepts, but near the end, you know, like it focuses like on too much, whereas Infamous 1 had a more equal pacing of the story, you know. Now, actual gameplay now, upgrades. It's gonna be hard now. With these now upgrades, there are lots of upgrades, lots of upgrades. But really, like with Second Son, what I love about it is that there's different. You obviously have different layers of powers, right? You have your smoke, so smoke, you know, your conduit. So you have the ability to drain smoke. You have the ability to, or you can transfer light. Or you can use a concrete, you know, eventually. And the more you play the game, and the more powers that you get. So a lot of probably the most amount of upgrades was in Infamous Second Son. And you had the karma upgrades as well. Infamous 2 had a lot of upgrades, because you had the amp. The amp is like a melee weapon. It adds to the, you know, it makes meleeing a lot easier. 1 didn't have the melee weapon. Infamous Second Son had chains, but there weren't any upgrades for the chains. But Infamous 2 had the amp, so you could do an upgrade to get finishing animations and enemies, which is pretty cool. You had, and the karma upgrades are there as well. So basically, at this tool I had the same amount of upgrades, except the amp. This one had the amp, and you had napalm or ice abilities in this, but and not as much as this, where you would have like an actual different layers of powers. Side missions, Infamous 2 had the best side missions, which is really what gives Infamous 2 the edge over the other two games, is the side missions. Tons of side missions early on. You can really choose. It's one of those, due to the open world nature of the game, you can approach it like Skyrim or Witcher, where you can decide, okay, am I gonna go with the side missions or main missions, or what's the best approach, you know? Side missions they'll give you, oh no, the main missions will give you the most amount of XP, but the side missions will give you points towards upgrades. You know, that you can't get. So like, you have to do side missions to get upgrades for grenades, rockets, electricity capacity. Infamous 1 had lots of side missions, but not as much. They weren't as good as 2. And not to mention content as well. Content Infamous 2 again had the best content out of all of them. Second Son was short, very short. It was too short, and they could have added more content. They could have added something where you obviously had different layers of power, so you could say, I do a challenge where I can only use this power here. You can't use this power, or this power there, you know, so on. Infamous 1, well, because it had Infamous 1 didn't really have that type of as much content as 2. I still had the side missions there and there, but the side missions weren't as, I guess because they weren't as interesting as Infamous 2. Same premise, but Infamous 2 basically had way more. And you had the UGC, so you could make your own missions. Infamous 2 had the UGC, so user-generated missions or content, so you could make your own missions, you know, like in a GTA 5 where you could, you know those cool type of missions where they build like basically like their own structure, right? The structure can go up to the sky, and then yeah, I can basically climb up, or you could do like a certain challenge mode, so you could generate like a certain amount of enemies like in a certain area, and then fight those enemies, different enemies fighting and try against each other, you know. Yeah, so content, overall content. Mechanics, Infamous Second Son, the best mechanics, movement, most fluent game, you know. Because you have the most aerial attacks again, like I said, dash abilities, teleport abilities. 1 had the weakest mechanics, you move very slow, controls felt very janky, dashing, you know, but naturally because it's the first game, they probably didn't have the, but for the time, like it had that, for its time it had good mechanics, but looking back, comparing to, there was a huge upgrade, you know, like there was a huge, it was a lot better in this one, compared to the other two. This one had better mechanics than this, but this one, the walking was weird. It was just weird, and you had to climb. It was really bad because the climbing is as more a representative like with the climbing, because this one you're forced to climb a lot onto buildings. Yeah, so yeah, so what else is there? DLC now. The best DLC by far is I believe it is the Infamous Second Son, because you're not playing as a main character in this DLC. The Infamous First Light DLC. It's pretty cool in that you get to, obviously in this timeline, so spoilers, right? Spoilers. The people with superpowers, they get hunted down by the government, right? In Infamous Second Son. Because of an event that happens in Infamous 2. So you have Delsin, Cole, Cole and Delsin you know, they're not like in the same timeline, right? So, or time. But by this one, there's a DLC where you could play as this other girl named Fetch, this other conduit with light abilities. And like it looks at her story, her backstory too, and it was very nice getting an alternate perspective, like on this world, this police state against the conduits. Kind of like the X-Men, you know, but really cool. Infamous 2 had a nice DLC, Infamous Festival of Blood, where you're a vampire for one of those Halloween events. You could actually teleport. The teleportation was so fun. But you're naturally evil. It makes you naturally evil. So there is no good. When you're a vampire, you can't be good, right? So you're gonna have all your evil upgrades, right? You could kill, you know, there's no more karma, so you could actually kill as many people or eat, because like you have to eat for blood and all that. Eat people for blood, and yeah. And then Infamous 1 had no DLC. No map sizes. No, they're all big maps. Infamous Second Son had the smallest map. More a representative of the actual the quick, the fast stories. I'm more representative. Where Infamous 1, you had the main district, which is like at the very first district, and in this the industrial district, you had another district, and Infamous 2, the same thing. You're in this one. You're in Empire City, so Empire City, I believe it's Chicago, based on Chicago or a slice of New York City. Infamous 2, you're in New Marais, which is New Orleans, Louisiana. Then Infamous Second Son, you're in Seattle. So they all have their uniqueness about the environment. The environment is all unique, you know. The buildings, they all have tall buildings, really, I really like the overall, you know. I really see how big the world gets like once you get to Seattle, because Seattle has that huge tower, that huge ass tower that you go on, right? And yeah. Now overall abilities, again, like I said before, I believe Infamous 2 had the best. Like you actually utilize your abilities the best, and you really have to start from scratch again. So you know, the overall utilization like of your abilities, they're gonna be stretched more, and you're gonna have more abilities than 1, and you actually have more abilities than Infamous 3 as well. So Infamous 2 probably had the most amount of abilities, and how you use your powers, how you can approach a certain situation, and yeah. And going back to the environment quickly, the environment has a thing where, that when you're evil, the sky is orange, but like when you're good, the sky is clear. So all 3 games carry that. It's a pretty cool effect. It kind of because in the first 2 games you have the ability to control lightning, right? It's pretty cool. But Infamous, even like Infamous Second Son, when you have smoke, the cloud gets orange, like when you're bad, or or that's more of a darker tone. But like when you're good, the skies are clear. Environmental. So yeah, overall, I would say they all share the same controls, right? Left stick to move forward, X to jump, the L1 square button for a grenade, L1 triangle for rockets. They all similar, very similar controls. Overall, the best game I would say Infamous 2. It is Infamous 2. Just based on its, you could really feel how the game improved upon from 1. Like in terms of the mechanics, the feel of the game. Like if a game doesn't feel mechanic wise and how the character moves, that can be big for me, you know. Had the most content, had the second best DLC and second best story. Great, the protagonist from the first game, he's great as well in this one, in Infamous 2, and there's tons of it. I really have to show you guys gameplay like of them, of the 3 different games. I go through a little talk about, to actually show you, as best to show you. I can look up, go on YouTube and look at Infamous gameplay. Again, it's one of the more underrated PlayStation exclusive games. It is a PlayStation exclusive, right? So yeah, I feel like I get overshadowed a lot by God of War, or even like with the new one here, Horizon, or Uncharted, or The Last of Us. So these games got like overshadowed, but they're all good games, really really good, especially Infamous 2. I try to imagine a game of superpowers. There's not many games. I guess now there is, but around the time these games came out, there weren't as many. It really adds a lot to the superhero video game genre, like being able to immerse yourself as a superhero. You can play as or super villain, depending. Have electricity powers. Like imagine being able to drain electricity, and then that actually fuels your body. Then then you can actually use that ability to as an offense, defense. So yeah, anyways, that's it for the video. A comparison video. Like, subscribe, share the video. You guys know the basics, right? And next video, I'm going to do a PS4 ranking because of the 10 extra games I got for the PS4 over the past year or so. I'm going to rank those games in there as well, and I want to see how they rank out with the new PS4 games. Thank you.